Welcome to Monk's Temple. Let us begin by settling into this space together. Find a comfortable position. There is no need to adjust your body in any special way. Simply let it be as it is. Now gently bring your awareness to the breath. Do not change it. Just notice it. Notice the coolness as air enters the nostrils. Notice the warmth as it leaves. The breath is always here, always now, always waiting to anchor us when the mind begins its endless wandering. And wander it does. The human mind is a time machine. We have tens of thousands of thoughts daily, and most are reruns. We replay old conversations. We revisit old wounds. We project constantly into the future, worrying about outcomes we cannot control, planning for contingencies that will never arrive. We spend so much of our lives living in tenses that do not actually exist. This ability to imagine tomorrow is both our greatest gift and our heaviest burden. It allows us to set goals and build civilizations. But it also traps us in perpetual waiting. We wait for the weekend, the vacation, the promotion, the retirement. We are a species with our gaze fixed on the horizon, rarely looking at the ground beneath our feet. What if I told you that buried within ancient Buddhism is a figure who embodies this very human relationship with the future? A being who exists entirely as a promise. A teacher who has not yet arrived but whose presence has already shaped billions of lives. This being is called Maitreya, the future Buddha. We are not going to approach this as a dry lecture. We are going to use the story of Maitreya as a mirror. We will look at this prophecy and learn something profound about hope, the architecture of our own minds, and the practical steps we can take right now to build a better inner world. Think of this as a guided exploration through ancient wisdom and modern psychology. Every culture has a version of this story. It is the story of the return. In Western traditions, there is the Messiah. In secular society, we wait for the next technology that will solve everything. We are perpetually waiting for the next big thing. Why are we so uncomfortable with the present? From a psychological standpoint, anticipation is a double-edged sword. On one side, it is the engine of progress. It gets us out of bed. It is the student studying for a degree years away. Anticipation gives our lives meaning. But there is another side. Anticipation can become a prison. It is chronic worry about a future that may never come. It is anxiety disorders affecting millions. Psychologists call this catastrophic thinking. There is also the arrival fallacy, the belief that once we reach that goal, we will finally be happy. We get the promotion, feel a rush, and then instantly a new target appears. We are like a donkey chasing a carrot on a stick, forever running, forever just missing the prize. Buddhism saw this clearly 2,500 years ago. The Buddha taught that craving is a primary source of suffering, and craving is almost always aimed at the future. We crave for things to be different. We crave for pleasant experiences to last. This is the mind's perpetual motion machine running on future thought. So where does Maitreya fit in? Why would a tradition so focused on the present create an elaborate story about a future event billions of years away? Imagine a farmer during a great drought. The land is parched. His neighbors are leaving, telling him he is foolish to stay. The land is dead, they say. There is no future here. But this farmer has an old pouch tied to his belt. Inside are seeds. Every morning he walks to his field. He does not plant them. The ground is too dry. Instead, he goes to a shaded spot, takes out a seed, holds it in his palm, feels its potential, and puts it away. His neighbors think he is mad. Why do you carry dead things? They are reminders of what we lost. The farmer smiles. They are not reminders of what was. They are promises of what will be again. As long as I hold these seeds, the drought is not permanent. The rain will come. Maybe not in my lifetime. But it will come. And when it does, I will be ready. The farmer's hope was not escape from present suffering. It was a deep belief in the cycle of things. It allowed him to endure hardship because he was anchored to the certainty of a future spring. Maitreya is that seed. For billions of Buddhists, the prophecy of a future Buddha is not escape. It is a psychological anchor preventing despair. The teachings say the Dharma will fade. Things will get dark. But just at the point of total eclipse, a new light will dawn. Maitreya will come. Knowing this changes how you experience darkness. It is not eternal night. It is the longest night of the year. The darkness becomes pregnant with the promise of dawn. This is profound psychology. When you believe the future holds potential for goodness, you gain strength to be present with today's difficulties. You endure the drought because you are holding the seed. If this exploration resonates with you, please subscribe to Monk's Temple. You are not just following a channel. You are joining a community of fellow travelers on the path of self-discovery. Hit subscribe and let us continue this journey together. So who exactly is this being we are waiting for? Let us paint a portrait from both ancient texts and the psychology of what such a figure represents to the human mind. His name is Maitreya. It comes from the Sanskrit word matri, which means loving kindness or friendliness. This is our first clue. This is not a stern judge or a wrathful deity. The very essence of this future Buddha is boundless, unconditional friendliness toward all existence. Imagine a being whose entire nature is to be a friend to you, to me, to the person who has wronged you, to the person you struggle to love. That is Maitreya. Buddhist cosmology describes him currently residing in a heaven realm called Tushita. Do not get hung up on the word heaven. Think of it less as a place and more as a state of being. Tushita is often translated as the satisfied realm or the joyful realm. It is a dimension of consciousness where a bodhisattva, a being dedicated to enlightenment for the benefit of all, dwells preparing for their final life. He is not lounging on clouds. He is in profound meditative contemplation, fine-tuning the teachings he will bring, waiting for the right conditions on earth to be born. This is crucial. The appearance of a Buddha is not random. It is conditional. Like a flower. A flower needs the right soil, sunlight, and rain. When all causes and conditions come together, the flower blooms. Similarly, a Buddha appears when suffering reaches critical mass and collective consciousness is ready for profound shift. Maitreya is that flower waiting to bloom. He is the next fully enlightened Buddha, successor to Siddhartha Gautama. His role is to turn the wheel of the Dharma again. To reboot the spiritual operating system for a new era. To teach a path perfectly tailored for beings of that distant time. Let me tell you a story about a librarian. There was once a great library holding all the world's knowledge. For centuries, scholars came from everywhere. But as time passed, fewer came. The language the books were written in began to be forgotten. New generations spoke a simpler tongue. They had no patience for old complex grammar. The library fell into disrepair. Knowledge was still there but locked away, inaccessible. One librarian, the last person who could still read the old language, cared for the books. She was very old. People would say, "What good are these dusty things? We cannot read them. They are useless." The old librarian would just smile. She spent her days not reading but meticulously copying them. She did not copy the words. She translated them into the new language, page by page. She wrote new stories, new parables, all based on old wisdom but using words people now understood. She connected ancient truths to their modern world. When she died, people discovered her work. Shelves full of new books written in their own language. The wisdom was not lost. It had just been waiting for someone to translate it. The old librarian prepared a gift for a future she would never see. Maitreya's task is exactly that. The historical Buddha taught in the language of 5th century BCE India. Maitreya will teach the same essential truth, the nature of suffering and the path to its end, but in the language of a future world billions of years from now. He is the ultimate translator. He does not bring new religion. He revitalizes the eternal one. He reveals truth that has always been there. Now consider another psychological layer. Why do we need a future Buddha at all? Why not just stick with original teachings? Think how you have changed in 10 years. The person you were a decade ago had different concerns, different understanding. If someone handed that younger you the books you read today, would you understand them? Would you have life experience to grasp what now seems obvious? This is the problem of spiritual transmission across vast time. Teachings that resonate in one era can become incomprehensible in another. Not because truth changes, but because the container for truth, language, culture, collective psychology, evolves continuously. A therapist once worked with a trauma patient. She used all standard techniques. She explained trauma science. She taught coping mechanisms. She drew brain diagrams. Nothing worked. The patient nodded politely but remained stuck. One day the therapist set aside her training. She asked the patient to tell a story. The patient described walking through a dark forest alone. The sounds, the fear, the feeling of being lost. The therapist listened and then said, "In that forest you found a small clearing where moonlight came through. You sat there and realized you were not alone. Others were in the forest too, each finding their own clearing." The patient wept. Something shifted. The therapist stopped speaking textbook language and started speaking the language of the patient's own soul. Maitreya will speak the language of that future world soul. He will not come with textbooks. He will come with stories that pierce through accumulated defenses. He will know exactly what metaphors unlock hearts grown hard, what images soften rigid minds. This is the promise. Not new information, but perfect translation. There is another beautiful aspect. In some traditions, Maitreya is not just waiting in some distant realm. He is already here as possibility. Every time someone understands the Dharma deeply and translates it for their own time, they participate in Maitreya's work. Every teacher finding fresh words for ancient truths extends this future Buddha. Consider the farmer with seeds again. He holds potential in his palm. He does not need to see harvest to know seeds are real. We do not need to see Maitreya to feel his presence. He exists as potential, as possibility, as guarantee that wisdom cannot die forever, that truth will always find way to be reborn in whatever language the world needs next. Now let us talk about time itself. The prophecies speak of Maitreya's arrival occurring after the teachings of the current Buddha have completely vanished. They give a specific number: 5.6 billion years. Let us sit with that number. 5.6 billion years. Our sun is only about 4.6 billion years old. By the time Maitreya is prophesied to arrive, our sun will have engulfed the earth. The planet beneath our feet will be long gone. So what do we do with this? From a psychological standpoint, this number is a masterpiece of spiritual engineering. It is designed to break our attachment to time. If the prophecy said Maitreya would come in 500 years, we could make plans. We could count down. Our minds would latch on to that date. We would vibrate with anticipation. The future would become a fixed point, and our present would become a waiting room. But 5.6 billion years. That is not a date. That is a horizon receding into infinity. A number so vast the mind cannot grasp it. It cannot make plans around it. It cannot count down. And in that failure, there is profound lesson. The prophecy is not about when Maitreya will come. It is about how he will come. He will come when conditions are right. Let me tell you about a clockmaker. There was a clockmaker renowned for intricate timepieces. His clocks were works of art with tiny carved figures dancing at every hour. For decades he poured his soul into his work. People traveled miles to see his clocks. But as he grew old, his hands shook. His eyesight failed. One day his greatest clock stopped working. A tiny irreplaceable gear cracked. He tried to fix it but only made it worse. The clock sat silent, a monument to a lost era. His apprentice, a young man with steady hands, asked if he could try repairing it. The old man shook his head. The gear is broken. The knowledge to make another died with the man who taught me. It cannot be fixed. Years passed. The old man died. The apprentice became a master but never touched the broken clock. It sat covered in a corner. People asked and he told them the same story. It cannot be fixed. Then one day a young girl wandered in. She pulled the sheet aside and looked at the silent clock. She turned to the master and asked a question no one had ever asked. If it cannot be fixed, why not build a new one? Not a copy. A new clock doing the same thing, marking time, making people happy, but using what we know now. The master was stunned. He had been so focused on the old clock that he forgot its purpose. He looked at the girl and felt inspiration for the first time in years. Maitreya is not coming to repair the old Buddha's teachings. They will have crumbled to dust. He is coming to build a new clock serving the same timeless purpose, waking beings from suffering, but built for that future world. The prophecy paints a vivid picture of that world. A spiritual dark age. Lifespans short. Greed and ignorance rampant. It sounds bleak. But at the darkest moment, hope arrives. Maitreya is born with miraculous signs. He renounces princely life and achieves enlightenment under a tree. Why must things get so dark before light appears? Think about sleep. You cannot stay awake forever. Exhaustion builds until the body shuts down. That shutdown is not failure. It is the condition for restoration. Sleep is the dark age of consciousness. Think about seasons. Winter is not punishment. It is the condition for spring. The cold kills what must die so new life can emerge from enriched soil. Think about your own life. When have you grown most? Often after difficulty. After relationships ended. After jobs lost. After beliefs crumbled. Your personal dark age created conditions for new understanding. A woman described her greatest loss. Her husband of 30 years died suddenly. She said the first year was complete darkness. She could not eat or sleep. She died that year too, the person she had been ceased to exist. But slowly things shifted. She began morning walks not because she wanted to but because her body needed movement. She talked to neighbors she had ignored for decades. She discovered she had something to offer other widows, an understanding only coming from walking through fire. She realized the person emerging from darkness was not the person who entered it. That person had to die. The old self had to become unfixable so a new self could be built. This is the psychological truth encoded in the prophecy. The dark age is not punishment. It is necessary condition for renewal. The old must become unusable before the new can appear. The gear must crack beyond repair before someone thinks to build a different clock. The 5.6 billion years remove urgency. They prevent turning Maitreya into another deadline. By pushing the event so far, the prophecy forces a choice. You can spend this life waiting for something that will not happen for eons, or recognize the real work is now. A man visited a monastery with a beautiful garden. He asked how long it took to create such perfection. The monk smiled. About 200 years. The man was confused. You are only 60. The monk replied, yes, but I did not start it. My teacher started it, and his teacher before him. I am simply caretaker. The garden will continue after me. I am building for the garden, not for myself. This is wisdom of deep time. When you know you will not see the harvest, you plant differently. You plant with more care because you are not rushing toward personal reward. You plant with more humility because you are part of something larger. You plant with more hope because hope detached from personal outcome becomes unshakable. Maitreya at 5.6 billion years is the ultimate expression of this. He reminds us the arc of wisdom is longer than any individual life. Truth does not need us to succeed in our lifetime. The Dharma will find expression when conditions are right, whether we are there to see it or not. The prophecies describe the miracles and teachings of Maitreya. These are rich with psychological meaning. One famous miracle is called the twin miracle. He will levitate in the air. From his upper body, flames will shoot forth. From his lower body, water will pour out simultaneously. Put aside the literal image. What does this represent? Fire and water are opposites. Fire is hot, active, consuming. Water is cool, passive, yielding. This miracle symbolizes non-duality. It demonstrates that apparent opposites in our experience, pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, are not separate. They are two sides of the same coin. The enlightened mind holds both in perfect balance. Let me tell you about a potter. There was a potter who made beautiful vessels. Her specialty was combining incompatible elements. She fired clay at extreme temperatures, then cooled it rapidly, a process that should crack ordinary pots. But hers emerged stronger. She mixed coarse sand with smooth clay, textures that should not bond. But hers held together. People asked her secret. She said, most potters try to eliminate opposites. They want pure clay without sand. They fight against material nature. I invite opposites in. The sand gives structure. Rapid cooling tempers the clay. The pot is strong not despite conflict but because of it. She held up a bowl. This bowl exists because fire met clay. It is the space where opposing forces reconciled. Maitreya's miracle is that bowl. Enlightenment is not choosing one side over the other. It is becoming the space where all opposites meet. His teachings will be perfectly suited for his time. He will not repeat old sermons. He will speak directly to specific suffering of that future humanity. He will address their unique doubts and forms of ignorance. The core of his message will be loving kindness. Maitreya. Not sentimental love. Radical transformative friendliness toward all existence. This is the antidote to greed and hatred. Love so powerful it actively works for liberation. A hospice nurse once described her most difficult patient. An elderly man with no family and a wall of anger keeping everyone away. He yelled at staff. Refused medication. Turned his face to the wall. The nurse tried everything. Nothing worked. One day she entered and simply sat by the door. She sat for an hour saying nothing. He ignored her. She came back next day and sat again. This continued for 2 weeks. On the 15th day, he spoke. "Why are you here?" She said, "I have no reason. I just wanted to sit." He was quiet a long time. Then he said, "My wife used to sit with me. Just sit. She died 40 years ago. No one has just sat with me since." The nurse kept sitting. Over weeks, fragments of his story emerged. A life of loss. A heart hardened by grief. Anger as the only protection left. He died peacefully 2 months later. The nurse was with him. His last words were, "Thank you for sitting." That is loving kindness. Not fixing. Not advising. Just being willing to stay when staying is uncomfortable. A small taste of the Maitreya represents. Now consider how this applies to your life. You cannot produce fire and water. But you can practice holding opposites. Sit with discomfort and comfort simultaneously. Acknowledge anger while choosing kindness. Feel fear while acting with courage. A business executive came to a meditation teacher. He was successful but miserable. He said, "I am split in two. At work I must be aggressive. At home I want to be gentle. I feel like a fraud in both places." The teacher asked, "Why must you be one or the other?" The executive said, "Because they are opposites." The teacher picked up a fruit. This fruit has skin protecting it and flesh nourishing it. Are skin and flesh opposites? They are different but serve the same fruit. The teacher said, "Your ruthlessness at work, what is its purpose?" The executive thought. To succeed. To provide for my family. The teacher said, and your gentleness at home? The executive said, to love my family. To be present. The teacher said, both serve the same thing. Protection and nourishment. The skin protects so flesh can nourish. The flesh nourishes so skin has purpose. They are partners. The executive sat silently. He saw his aggression not as betrayal of gentleness but as its protector. Money earned aggressively allowed gentleness at home without worry. Gentleness at home gave his aggression meaning beyond winning. This is Maitreya's wisdom appearing daily. Fire and water within you are not enemies. They are partners. Anger protects something precious. Sadness softens something hard. Fear alerts to danger. Courage moves through it. The goal is not eliminating half your experience. It is becoming space where all of it exists without conflict. The miracles are teaching tools. Visual demonstrations of truths too subtle for words. Fire and water together show enlightenment includes everything. Nothing rejected. Nothing suppressed. All energies transformed and integrated. You can practice this today. When you feel an emotion you label negative, anger, jealousy, fear, do not push it away. Ask what it protects. What it serves. What intelligence lives within it. You might discover anger is exhausted devotion. Jealousy is unrecognized longing. Fear is love of what might be lost. Hold fire and water together. Let them teach you. A musician once struggled with stage fright. Her hands shook before every performance. She tried everything to eliminate fear. Breathing exercises. Positive affirmations. Nothing worked. The fear remained. One day a mentor said, "Stop trying to kill the fear. Invite it on stage with you. Let it sit in the corner and watch. It has something to tell you." The next performance, she did not fight. She acknowledged the fear. She felt its energy, its alertness, its focus. And she realized the fear was not her enemy. It was her body's way of saying this matters. This is important. Do not waste this moment. She played better than ever. The fire of fear and water of calm flowed together through her hands. This is the twin miracle in miniature. Not magic. Just willingness to let opposites coexist. The future Buddha shows what is possible when we stop choosing sides and start embracing all of what we are. One of the most fascinating aspects of Maitreya is how his image transformed as Buddhism traveled across Asia. He became a spiritual Rorschach test. Different cultures projected their own hopes and values onto him, creating a kaleidoscope of interpretations. In Theravada Buddhism, practiced in Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Myanmar, Maitreya is acknowledged as the next Buddha but plays no central role in daily practice. The focus remains on individual effort toward enlightenment in this very life. Maitreya is like a distant benevolent king. You know he exists. You know he will matter someday. But you do not organize your life around his arrival. This prevents spiritual procrastination, the idea that Maitreya will save me so I do not need to try. In Mahayana Buddhism, which flourished in China, Japan, and Korea, Maitreya receives a significant upgrade. He becomes a fully fledged bodhisattva, a being of immense compassion actively working for all beings right now. He is not just waiting in Tushita. From his heavenly realm, he radiates compassion and inspiration down to earth. This makes him accessible. You can pray to him, visualize him, connect with his energy in meditation. He becomes a living presence, a source of hope you can tap into during daily struggles. Let me tell you about a lighthouse keeper's son. On a remote windswept island stood a lighthouse. Its beam guided ships through treacherous waters. The lighthouse keeper was dedicated to his duty. Every night he climbed spiral stairs, polished the giant lens, and ensured the light burned bright. He knew his job was essential. If the light failed, ships would be lost. He had a young son who sometimes climbed with him. The boy would look at the vast dark ocean and ask, "Father, do the ships thank you for the light?" The father laughed. "No, son. They rarely see the lighthouse. They just see the light. Does not that make you sad? To work so hard and never be thanked?" The father put his hand on his son's shoulder. "The light is not for thanks. It is for ships out there right now navigating rocks. And for ships coming tomorrow, next week, next year. It is a promise that shore is here. My job is not to be thanked. My job is to keep the promise." In Mahayana Buddhism, Maitreya is that light. A constant radiant promise. Not just a future event but a present reality. His compassion shines from Tushita, not to be worshipped but to guide beings now. A promise that no matter how dark the night, the shore of enlightenment remains. The light still burns. The promise remains kept. In Vajrayana Buddhism, the mystical branch found in Tibet, Maitreya possesses immense spiritual power. Complex meditation practices called sadhanas connect practitioners directly with his enlightened mind. You visualize him, recite mantras, imagine his blessings dissolving inner darkness. This is spiritual technology, tapping into future potential to transform present reality. In China, Maitreya took his most joyful form. You have seen him. The rotund laughing Buddha statue found in restaurants and shops. This figure is Buddha, a historical Chinese monk from over 1,000 years ago. He was a wandering eccentric with perpetual smile, large belly, and love for children. He carried a sack of sweets and gave them to everyone. People began seeing him as Maitreya incarnate, the future Buddha's boundless joy and generosity already walking among them. This is beautiful psychology. The distant cosmic figure becomes a jolly approachable monk. The future promise experienced as present reality embodied in a simple smiling man giving away candy. A child once asked Buddha, "What is in your sack?" Buddha smiled and said, "Everything I need to make people happy." The child asked, "Can I have something?" Buddha reached into his sack and pulled out nothing. He opened his empty hand and said, "I gave you a smile. Did you not feel it?" The child laughed. Buddha laughed. They stood laughing together for no reason at all. That story captures something essential. Maitreya's gift is not stuff. It is presence. Joy. The recognition that happiness needs no reason. In Japan, new religious movements emerged in 19th and 20th centuries whose founders claimed to be Maitreya incarnate. This shows the archetype's power. People saw their teachers as embodiments of that future promise. The waiting ended. The future arrived now. What does this mean for you? You do not need to wait for Maitreya. You can embody pieces of his qualities today. Consider kindness without expectation. The lighthouse keeper kept his light burning whether ships came or not. Can you perform small kindnesses with no need for thanks? Hold a door. Offer a genuine compliment. Listen without fixing. Let your kindness be its own reward. Consider joy without reason. Buddha laughed with children for no reason. Can you find moments of simple joy today? Sunlight on your skin. Warm tea. The sound of rain. Joy needs no occasion. It is always available. Consider presence without agenda. The hospice nurse sat with her patient for weeks expecting nothing. Can you be fully present with someone today without trying to change them? Just sit. Just listen. Just be there. A woman once volunteered at a homeless shelter. She expected to serve food, organize donations, make visible difference. Instead, they asked her to sit and talk with guests. She felt useless. Anyone could talk. She wanted to do something real. Her first conversation was with a man who had not spoken in days. She sat beside him silently. After 30 minutes he said, "I used to have a dog." She listened. He talked for an hour about his dog. When he finished, he said thank you and walked away. She realized later that dog might have been his last experience of unconditional love. By listening, she honored that love. She did not fix his homelessness. She restored something more precious. His connection to love. That is Maitreya work. Not solving everything. Just showing up with open heart wherever you are. The future Buddha's qualities are not distant. They are available now in small daily choices. Kindness without reward. Joy without reason. Presence without agenda. These are the seeds you plant today for a harvest you may never see. But the garden grows anyway. Maitreya's influence extends far beyond temples. For centuries, his name has been invoked as a symbol of social and political change. When times grow hard, when rulers are unjust, when society feels broken, hope for Maitreya's arrival becomes a powerful engine for transformation. In Chinese history, numerous uprisings rallied around Maitreya. Peasants ground down by poverty found hope in prophecy of a future king ushering peace. Leaders arose claiming to be Maitreya incarnate, calling people to overthrow old orders. These movements reveal the myth's power. It inspires people to act now, creating better world. This is profound psychological truth. Stories about future directly impact actions in present. If you believe future is bleak, you become apathetic. If you believe future holds golden age, you work toward it, planting seeds you may never see bloom. Let me tell you about a gardener of an ashen field. After a volcanic eruption, a fertile valley was buried under ash. The sky darkened. Everything green was gone. Survivors huddled in caves, cold and hungry. They had lost everything. One old woman did something strange. Every day she walked into the ashen field carrying a small pouch. She would kneel, push fingers through ash until touching old soil, press a seed in, cover it, and mark the spot with a stone. Then she walked back. Others watched with pity. Why waste your energy? The soil is poisoned. Nothing will ever grow again. The old woman did not argue. She kept going until her pouch was empty. Years later, a new generation lived in the valley. The ash had begun breaking down. One spring, children noticed something strange. Where the old woman placed her stones, tiny green shoots pushed through gray. Flowers. Vegetables. She knew she would never see them grow. She knew the ground would remain barren for her lifetime. But she planted anyway, as gift for future she would never witness. This is Maitreya's social power. He symbolizes planting seeds for future you will not see. He inspires movements for justice not because leaders expect immediate victory, but because they act in accordance with long-term hope. They are gardeners of ashen field. A teacher once worked in an impoverished school district. Resources were scarce. Morale was worse. Colleagues asked why she bothered. These kids are doomed. Nothing will change. She said, I am teaching for what these children become 30 years from now. I may never know which sentence I say today becomes a lifeline. But I say it anyway. 30 years later, a man found her. He was a doctor now. He said, in third grade you told me I asked good questions. No one had ever said that. I held on to it through years of being told I was trouble. I became a doctor because I kept asking. You planted that seed. The teacher had no memory of the comment. It was one sentence among thousands. But it landed in fertile soil and grew for 3 decades. This is Maitreya Energy Daily. You never know which seed will grow. Which kindness becomes someone's lifeline. So you plant generously. You plant without knowing. You plant for future you will not see. In Burma, now Myanmar, there is a famous prophecy. It says when Buddha's teachings decline, a great king will arise and prepare for Maitreya. Throughout history, Burmese kings claimed this role. They built pagodas, sponsored monasteries, all preparing for someone they would never meet. A visitor asked a monk why kings spent so much preparing for such distant event. The monk smiled. When you love someone, you prepare for their arrival even without knowing when. If you expect a beloved guest, you clean the house, prepare food. Is that wasted if guest delays? No. Preparation itself is expression of love. This reframes everything. Preparing for Maitreya is not about the guest. It is about the lover. The act of preparing transforms the preparer. Cleaning house makes your home beautiful now. Waiting itself becomes practice. What are you waiting for? Retirement? Promotion? The danger is making present into waiting room. The wisdom is making preparation into practice. A woman spent 20 years saving for retirement. She worked jobs she hated, postponed pleasures, told herself life would begin when she had enough. The week she retired, she was diagnosed with illness limiting mobility. All planned travel became impossible. She sat at home with money and time but no health to enjoy either. She told a friend, I spent 20 years waiting and now there is nothing left to wait for. The friend said, You spent 20 years preparing for a guest who never came. But while you prepared, life passed by. The guest was never the point. The point was living while you waited. This is hard teaching. Maitreya comes in 5.6 billion years. You will not meet him. The golden age he ushers will not include you. So why care? Because preparing for him teaches you how to live now. Building the kind of world he would inherit makes your world better today. Planting seeds for future harvest gives your hands purpose in present drought. The gardener of ashen field did not expect to eat those vegetables. But the act of planting saved her. It gave her reason to walk each day. It connected her to life beyond her own. It made her part of something continuing after she stopped. A community organizer once worked in a neighborhood considered hopeless. Crime was high. Investment was zero. Politicians ignored them. Young people asked why he bothered. Nothing will change in our lifetime. He said, I am not working for your lifetime. I am working for your grandchildren's lifetime. The trees I plant will shade them. The schools I fight for will teach them. I will never meet them. But they will sit under these trees and not know my name. That is enough. You can live like this. Plant seeds you will never see grow. Build things you will never use. Love people who may never love you back. Prepare for future you will not enter. This is not sacrifice. It is freedom from needing outcome. It is liberation from results. It is Maitreya practice available now. Maitreya has stepped out of ancient scrolls and into modern culture. He appears in movies, music, literature, and even memes. The future Buddha has become a pop culture icon, proving spiritual ideas can transcend their original context. Think about the film The Matrix. Neo is a classic Maitreya figure. He lives in a dark simulated world. He is called the One, prophesied to free humanity. He does not come to judge. He comes to awaken. He offers a choice between comfortable ignorance and difficult truth. This is a perfect modern parable. Maitreya, like Neo, offers not salvation but a wake-up call. In literature, the archetype appears everywhere. Stories about a coming teacher speak to our deep need for guidance, for someone to show us the way out. On social media you find Maitreya memes. People joke about waiting for Maitreya with pictures of someone waiting impatiently. This might seem irreverent, but it shows the concept's vitality. When a spiritual idea survives into meme culture, it proves its resilience. Let me tell you about a digital archivist. A brilliant software engineer became obsessed with digital decay. She saw that internet information was fragile. Websites disappeared. File formats became obsolete. She realized that in a few centuries, almost all our digital culture would be lost forever. Like the Library of Alexandria burning in slow motion. So she dedicated her life to building the archive. A distributed network buried in a decommissioned mine. It stored information as patterns of light etched onto indestructible crystals. Any optical device could read it centuries later. When asked why she did this, knowing she would never see results, she smiled. I am not building this for us. I am building for people who come after the crash. They will find this place and see our faces, hear our music, read our words. They will know someone was thinking of them. The digital archivist is a Maitreya for the information age, preparing a gift for future that has no use for her. Translating our present into language future can understand. In music, Maitreya appears across genres. Indie rock bands name songs after him. Hip-hop artists drop his name in lyrics about hope. A jazz musician composed a suite called Waiting for Maitreya, with movements representing stages of anticipation. The final movement was not triumphant arrival but peaceful present, suggesting waiting itself was the point. In visual art, Maitreya appears everywhere. Ancient cave paintings, elaborate thankas, modern digital art on Instagram. Each generation reimagines him in their own language. A street artist painted a Maitreya mural in a rough neighborhood. He depicted the future Buddha as a contemporary young person, hoodie, sneakers, holding not a lotus but a book. Underneath he wrote, "The future is already here, just unevenly distributed." Residents gathered. Most did not recognize the reference. But everyone understood the message. Hope belongs here too. Awakening is possible even in this place. A teenager asked, "Is that supposed to be someone famous?" The artist said, "Not yet. But someday." That is Maitreya's cultural power. He represents not just a specific figure but the principle of hope itself. In gaming, Maitreya makes surprising appearances. He shows up in fighting games, usually peaceful but powerful when provoked. He inspires storylines about cycles of renewal and waiting saviors. A game designer explained, "We created a dying world." Players asked if there was any hope. "We created a character who said, 'I will come when you are ready, not when you are desperate.'" That forced players to focus on their own preparation rather than waiting for rescue. This is the teaching embedded in pop culture. Maitreya appears everywhere because the human psyche needs him. Needs the promise that someone is coming. That dawn follows night. A filmmaker made a documentary about people claiming to be Maitreya incarnate. He expected to expose frauds. Instead he found ordinary people trying to embody extraordinary compassion. They were practicing. Trying to live as if they were the future Buddha. One subject said, "I do not really believe I am Maitreya. But acting as if I might be makes me kinder, more patient, more generous. If that is delusion, give me more of it." This is the genius of pop culture Maitreya. He does not require belief. He invites participation. You do not have to accept prophecy literally. You can play with the idea. Try it on. See how it fits. What if you lived today as if you were Maitreya? Not saving the world. Just being the friendliest version of yourself. What would you do differently? Who would you forgive? What kindness would you offer? The digital archivist built for strangers centuries away. The street artist painted for neighborhood kids who did not know Buddhist names. The jazz composer created music teaching listeners to find peace in anticipation rather than arrival. You can join this cultural conversation. Not by believing in distant future Buddha. By embodying future Buddha qualities now. Friendliness. Patience. Generosity. Hope. These are available regardless of what you believe. They are practices. And like all practices, they transform the practitioner. A young woman once wore a bracelet inscribed with Maitreya's name. Someone asked if she was Buddhist. She said, "I do not know much about Buddhism. But I want to remember to be friendlier." The name helps. That is enough. You do not need theology to practice kindness. You do not need prophecy to embody hope. The future Buddha is not just coming. He is available now as possibility, as invitation, as reminder that you can always choose to be friendlier than you were yesterday. Maitreya in pop culture is invitation, not doctrine. Come play with this idea. See where it takes you. You might find yourself becoming what you once only waited for. With all these different interpretations, it is easy to get confused. So let us clear the air. What is Maitreya, and what is he not? Maitreya is not the Buddhist equivalent of the Messiah. This is the biggest misconception. In Judeo-Christian tradition, the Messiah is a unique savior who comes to judge the world, redeem the faithful, and usher in a final eternal kingdom. It is a linear end-of-days event. Maitreya operates in a cyclical universe. He is one Buddha in a long beginningless line of Buddhas. Countless came before him. Countless will come after. He is not a final judge. He is a temporary teacher. He does not offer salvation through faith. He offers a path each being must walk themselves. He shows the way. You do the walking. Maitreya is not coming to end the world. He is coming to restart the spiritual engine. The dark age preceding him is not an ending he causes. It is the natural cycle of decline creating conditions for his arising. He is dawn after longest night, not meteor ending the day. Maitreya is not a hidden world leader pulling strings today. This is a modern conspiracy theory attached to his name. No Buddhist text supports this. His arrival will be unmistakable. You will not need a blog post to know he is here. He will be a public universally recognized teacher. Maitreya is not a figure to be worshipped for personal gain. While some traditions have devotional practices, the core purpose is not creating a cult of personality. It is inspiring hope and reminding us of our own potential for Buddhahood. The future Buddha is a mirror reflecting our own future capacity for awakening. The point is not waiting for him. It is working toward the same goal he represents. Let me tell you about a man who confused the map with the territory. A traveler received a detailed map of a beautiful island. He studied it obsessively. He memorized every mountain, every river, every trail. He told everyone about the island. He could describe it perfectly. He framed the map and hung it on his wall. He felt he knew the island intimately. One day a friend returned from actually visiting the island. The traveler asked, "Was it as beautiful as the map showed?" The friend said, "I did not look at any map. I just walked. Sometimes I got lost. Sometimes I found places not on any map. It was more beautiful than any drawing could capture." The traveler was confused. "But how did you know where to go?" The friend said, "I did not need to know where I was going. I just needed to be where I was." Maitreya is the map. not the territory. The prophecy shows possibilities. It does not replace direct experience. Waiting for Maitreya while ignoring your own awakening is like framing the map and never visiting the island. A woman once asked a Zen master, "When will Maitreya come?" The master said, "He already came. You missed him." She said, "How could I miss him?" The master said, "You were too busy waiting." This is the danger. Mistaking the pointer for the pointed. The prophecy for the reality. The future for the now. Another misconception is that only Buddhists benefit from Maitreya's arrival. Buddhist texts describe his teachings as beneficial for all beings regardless of belief. His wisdom is universal. He does not check membership cards before offering enlightenment. A hospital chaplain once served patients of all faiths and none. She was asked how she could help people with beliefs different from her own. She said, "Suffering does not check religious affiliation before arriving. Neither does compassion. When someone is in pain, they do not need my beliefs. They need my presence." The same will be true for Maitreya. He will meet beings where they are, not where doctrine says they should be. Maitreya is also not a magic solution requiring no effort from us. Some assume his arrival will automatically fix everything. But Buddhist teachings emphasize that he teaches a path. Students must walk it. He is the ultimate teacher, not the ultimate rescuer. A man once imagined that when Maitreya came, all his problems would vanish. He would finally be happy. He would finally be at peace. He just needed to wait. Years passed. He grew old waiting. One day he realized he had spent his entire life waiting for a happiness that was always available. The peace he sought from Maitreya was already present in moments he overlooked while staring at horizon. This is perhaps the deepest teaching. Maitreya represents our own capacity for awakening. The future Buddha is not out there. He is the fully enlightened version of you. The you that has let go of all clinging. The you that radiates unconditional friendliness. That you already exists as potential. You do not need to wait 5.6 billion years to meet him. You can begin embodying his qualities today. The map is not the island. But the map can guide you toward it. The prophecy is not the awakening. But it can inspire you to seek it. Maitreya is not coming to save you. But the idea of him can remind you that salvation, or rather liberation, is always available. It just requires showing up. Being present. Walking the path instead of just studying the map. So clear away the misconceptions. Maitreya is teacher, not judge. Guide, not savior. Possibility, not magic. Mirror, not deity. He shows what is possible when heart opens completely. When friendliness becomes your entire nature. That is not a distant event. That is a direction you can turn toward right now. So we arrive at the most important question. What does any of this have to do with you today? Maitreya is not just a being in a heaven realm. He is a blueprint. That potential exists within you right now. Every time you choose kindness over indifference, you act as Maitreya. Every time you offer wisdom to someone struggling, you act as Maitreya. Every time you refuse despair and choose compassion, you act as Maitreya. At day's end, ask yourself, what seed did I plant today that I will never see grow? A kind word to a child. A contribution to a cause. A piece of writing that might outlive you. Acknowledging you are a gardener of the ashen field gives your life profound meaning. When facing difficulty, pause and ask, what would the future Buddha do? Not an order to obey but a direction to consider. A way of tapping into your own highest potential. The future Buddha is you. Not in egotistical sense. The seed of his qualities exists within your mind right now. The prophecy of his arrival is a metaphor for the arrival of your own enlightenment. The seed is there. Always has been. By cultivating it through mindfulness, through compassion, through being present, you are not just waiting for the future Buddha. You are becoming him. The story of Maitreya is not reason to look away from present. It is reason to look more deeply into it. An invitation to find, in the heart of this messy beautiful moment, the promise of future spring. Go forth. Be kind. Be wise. Be the friend to the world you are waiting for. Tend your garden even if covered in ash. Shine your light even if no one thanks you. Plant seeds even if you never see them bloom. Stay curious. Stay compassionate. Keep that inner Buddha shining. The future is counting on you. Thank you for walking this path with us at Monk's Temple. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free.